Me and Pac went in the studio and did a song together. And then them little dudes.
Outlaws.
Yeah.
Outlaws.
They came, like, as soon as we got there, they came up to Pac talking about, yo, Lauryn Hill dissed you, Mobb Deep dissed you.
Tupac, he really had an issue with Jay-Z. He really didn't like him then.
Not at all.
That if Pac was alive, it would have been a whole different story. And as much money as Jay-Z has, he still hasn't accomplished what Tupac accomplished before he was at 25 years old.
Big Daddy Kane just dropped a bomb about Jay-Z and Tupac that no one saw coming. And let's just say everything we thought we knew might not be the full truth. Everybody knows Kane was the one who gave Jay-Z his first real shot. That's facts. Jay was spitting fire, freestyling on stage, opening for Kane, and repping in his crew's cypher. But once Jay started blowing up, Kane's name somehow vanished from the story. And that's where things start getting real spicy. Kane's comments also tie back to Tupac, because while Kane was out here giving Jay-Z opportunities out east, Pac was calling out the music industry, taking shots at fake artists, and yeah, he was throwing some shade Jay's way too. So the real question is, what is Kane actually trying to say here? Did Jay-Z take more than just inspiration from both Kane and Pac? Did he build his whole empire while leaving their names out of the spotlight and never looking back? Let's really get into it. Back in the early 90s, when Jay was still unknown in the game, Big Daddy Kane took him out on tour during his Chocolate City run. He gave Jay time to freestyle on stage while he switched outfits, straight up co-signed him in front of live crowds. But Kane didn't stop there. He also helped record demo tracks and sent Jay's stuff to major labels, trying to get him signed. And according to Kane, it wasn't easy. Labels straight up weren't feeling Jay's style back then. Even after those record labels turned Jay-Z down, Kane still believed he had potential, and he was right. But here's where things start to get real messy. Kane's fingerprints are all over Jay's early flow. Fast, smooth, but with that sharp edge. You can hear the influence clear as day. But when Jay started getting major shine, that history got barely a whisper. In Jay's book, Decoded, he does mention learning stage presence and pacing from Kane. But it's just a quick shout, nothing deep, no real gratitude, no consistent credit. And yeah, Kane noticed the silence. Now here's where it gets straight up shady. There's been talk for years that Jay took a subliminal jab at Kane in his track, Do It Again. The bar goes, I've seen the same ish happen to Kane. 3 cuts in your eyebrows trying to wild out. And if you know your hip hop history, you know Kane made those 3 eyebrow slits his signature back in the day. That line hit different when you know the context. It sounded cold, almost like a low-key diss. Kane wasn't just another rapper, he was the look, the vibe, the swagger of the late 80s and early 90s. So when someone like Jay, who came up under him, spits a line like that with zero warmth, it rubbed people the wrong way. Even Angie Martinez allegedly said on her show that it sounded like a diss. By the time the late 90s rolled around, Kane's chart presence had cooled off and the new wave was taking over. But still, people weren't expecting Jay to come off like that towards someone who helped pave his path. That line from Jay had people talking, and the rumor mill went wild, but Kane later brushed it off in public, trying to keep it cool. Still, when you add it to Jay-Z's known competitive streak, things start looking different. Jay once admitted he studied Kane closely backstage, learning the moves. But when Jay shifted into his gangster hustler image, Kane stepped back, giving him space to shine. Now, years later, Kane's left wondering, did Jay just outgrow him or intentionally erase him from the story? And here's where it gets even deeper. Kane wasn't the only one feeling this way. Around the same time Kane was stepping aside, Tupac was stepping up loud, calling out the very same industry behavior Kane's hinting at now. Pac saw it early, how real artistry was getting pushed out by a flashy new wave chasing image, fame, and power. And guess whose name started circling in those conversations? Jay-Z. Back in the day, people were whispering that Jay felt low-key threatened by Tupac. Word was, Jay knew he couldn't touch Pac's energy. Sure, Jay had the bars, the punchlines, but Pac had that wild, unshakable presence, that it factor that you just can't copy. And yeah, things got real. Jay and Pac weren't just distant rivals. They had real tension before Pac's death. It started heating up when Jay linked with Biggie, and they started taking shots at the West Coast. Jay and Big, both from Bed-Stuy, got tight in the early 90s, and in 96, they dropped Brooklyn's Finest, and that only added more fuel to the fire. Brooklyn's Finest was a standout track on Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt, no doubt about that. But that collab, it lit the fuse. Irv Gotti, who was tight with Jay back then, later revealed he actually warned Jay not to put Biggie on that song. The East Coast versus West Coast beef was already red hot, and Irv knew that dropping something like that could blow up in their faces real quick. Now, Pac and Biggie didn't start off as enemies. They were actually cool in the beginning. But everything flipped in '94 after Pac got shot 5 times during a robbery at Quad Studios. Pac believed Biggie and Diddy had inside info about the setup, but stayed quiet, and Pac never let that go. He felt betrayed on a deep level. Biggie always denied knowing anything about it, but after the shooting, it was war. The two started throwing shots at each other out in the open. Then, just before Jay released Brooklyn's Finest, Biggie had already dropped Who Shot Ya, a track that Pac and his fans took as a direct provocation. Tensions were sky high. That's exactly why Irv Gotti told Jay to hold off on that collab, but Jay pushed forward and dropped it anyway, and sure enough, it stirred up even more drama. In his verse, Biggie threw slick disses at Pac, calling him his son and hinting at the wild rumors involving Pac and Faith Evans. It hit hard. That track set Pac off. He came swinging at Jay with tracks like Bomb First, My Second Reply, and F Friends, throwing heat straight at him. Fans were on edge, waiting for Jay to fire back with a full diss track. But that moment never came. He never got the chance. Just weeks later, Tupac was fatally gunned down in a drive-by in Las Vegas. But here's the twist. Jay-Z did have a diss track ready. It was called Scathing, and according to those who heard it, it was a savage shot straight at Pac. But Jay never dropped it while Pac was alive. Word is, he didn't want to stir up even more chaos with Pac still out here breathing fire. But here's what most folks don't know. After Pac passed, Jay actually performed that track live at the Apollo. DJ Clark Kent said the song was straight up disrespectful, and Jay only did it because he felt like he had to prove something, like he'd been holding in all that heat and finally let it loose. So why would Jay perform a diss track once Pac was already gone? That's where it gets real shady. There's been serious talk that Jay felt relieved when Pac died. People say he was intimidated, like he knew deep down he couldn't outshine Pac's raw presence.
You being a respected lyricist, how you feel about the people that push the narrative and say that Tupac, he wasn't a lyricist?
Okay, but hold up. Tupac is a lyricist. See what I'm saying? It's just that he's not one of those lyrical MCs that spit stuff, but his stuff is, he spit deep lyrics that touch your soul. So I do consider Tupac a lyricist. Even though his stuff is about substance, I do consider him a lyricist. You have to be lyrical to touch someone's soul, to make someone feel like, yo, I don't know this man, but he knows my pain.
Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, even said Jay was so shook he once refused to leave his Vegas hotel room because Pac and his crew were out there. Fans have been calling Jay sneaky for never dropping a diss track while Pac was alive, and honestly, there's something to that. Jay and his East Coast circle were known for slipping in slick subliminals, just enough to poke the bear, hoping Pac would explode, and yeah, it worked. Rappers from that era still say Jay was deeply jealous of Pac's natural charisma. He had the bars, no doubt, but Pac had that untouchable energy, the kind you can't copy, can't buy, can't fake. Jay knew it too, and the tension didn't end with Pac's death. It actually left a strange silence in the air. Jay-Z never publicly addressed the full weight of that drama, and that's exactly what's kept fans debating for years. Some say Jay played it smart by not dragging things out. Others say he avoided the smoke because he never wanted that direct heat from Pac when he was alive. But behind the scenes, things were still tense. Industry insiders claim that Jay was constantly walking a fine line, throwing little lyrical jabs but never going all in. It was a chess game. He waited out the storm, let others burn up in the drama, and kept building his empire in the background. That strategy, cold but calculated, After Pac was gone, Jay's name started rising faster. His image got cleaner, sharper, more bossed up, and with Biggie also gone by 97, Jay had a wide open lane to take over the throne. But for some people in the game, that timing was just too perfect. The two biggest voices from the coast were gone, and here comes Jay, ready to wear the crown. There's been quiet talk in the industry ever since. Whispers that Jay-Z didn't just survive the storm, he benefited from it. That without Pac and Big casting their shadows, Jay was finally free to become the top dog without anyone standing in his way. Now, is that just the way the game works? Or did Jay climb the ladder by staying silent while the legends took each other out? That's the question that still got folks looking sideways, even all these years later. And then came the Blueprint era, Jay-Z's big move into rap royalty. By the early 2000s, he wasn't just another rapper anymore. He was the face of the game. But even as Jay sat on top, those old questions about how he got there never fully disappeared, especially when fans started noticing how often Jay recycled flows, cadences, and even full themes that had already been touched by Pac and Biggie. One moment that really had people talking was Jay's track Blueprint 2, where he said, "I gave you prophecy on my first joint and y'all lamed out, didn't really appreciate it till the second one came out." But critics were quick to point out, was that prophecy really all his? Or was Jay borrowing legacies and flipping them like business moves? And let's not forget how Jay began stepping into the mogul lane, deals, branding, fashion, business power plays. The same shift Pac was talking about years earlier, how rap was turning into an industry game, where image started mattering more than message. Pac warned that the heart was getting stripped from hip-hop, and now Jay was leading that very transition. Even Nas called him out for it in Ether, saying Jay was a copycat, a trend writer, and someone who bit off others to get to the top. And for a minute, that diss shook Jay's image hard. Fans started looking closer at how much of Jay's legacy was truly his own and how much was built from what came before him. Jay weathered it all, but the tension between respect, rivalry, and silent ambition still follows him to this day. He played the long game, no doubt, but some folks are still wondering what was lost in the process. Even Nas later dropped a wild reveal in an interview. He said Jay-Z was straight up bitter about Pac and Biggie's rise. According to Nas, they were chilling when Jay looked him dead in the eye and said, "I'm better than Biggie." Nas was shocked, but then Jay doubled down and said Tupac and DMX weren't even lyricists. Nas told Vibe, "I told him I disagreed, that Tupac was the greatest ever, period." And that right there, that attitude is why some fans still call Jay-Z a snake in the game, because the shade didn't stop with Pac or Biggie. Jay also stayed tight with Diddy, even after dark rumors started swirling that tied Diddy to the drama around Pac's murder. And here's where it gets even messier. After both Pac and Biggie were gone, Diddy started hyping Jay up like crazy, saying he was the one who stepped up and filled their shoes. But despite all the shady headlines and whispers surrounding Diddy through the years, Jay stayed close, right up until the Cassie lawsuit in 2023 shook the industry. Now suddenly, Jay's out here claiming he and Diddy were never even friends? Come on now. So what's the real takeaway from all this? Big Daddy Kane speaking on betrayal. Tupac's warnings coming full circle. Jay's sneaky power moves behind the scenes. It paints a cold picture. As gifted as Jay-Z is, more and more people in the industry are saying his legacy didn't just come from talent. It came from strategy, silence, and stepping over people who helped him rise. But now I want to hear from you. Was Jay-Z just playing the industry game like a boss? Or did he cross a line he can't come back from? Did he leave Kane in the dust after he made it? And what about his jealousy toward Tupac? Do you think it was real? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, share this video with your people, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives like this. There's way more to uncover.